This Nintendo Switch Lite is in a terrible shape. It doesn't turn on, it doesn't charge, and there's absolutely no signs of life. Most people would call it dead, but today we're going to open it and see if this console can actually be saved. While browsing eBay, I came across a really interesting listing. It was a pink Nintendo Switch Lite and the price immediately caught my attention, just $52.14. The title said the console had no power, and the description clearly mentioned it was being sold for parts only. Looking at the listing photos, the back cover actually didn't look too bad at all. But the front was a different story. The touchscreen was heavily scratched and the joysticks were torn in a pretty rough shape. Once I got the parcel, it was time to unbox it. So here it is, a broken Nintendo Switch Lite with a known failure. The touchscreen is heavily scratched with a lot of marks that are very noticeable. The left joystick rubber has almost completely come off, and the joystick mechanism itself is fully broken. The right joystick seems to be working, but the rubber is heavily worn and has turned brown instead of its original white color. The back housing looks more or less fine, but there are still many small scratches, especially at the bottom near the charging port. The top R and the R buttons click properly, but they are clearly worn out. The same goes for L and the L buttons. The volume buttons, however, seems to be working just fine. Now let's check if there's a game cartridge inside. Unfortunately, no luck this time. What about micro SD card? Same story, nothing there. Ah, what a bummer. Taking a closer look at the USB-C port on the bottom, it doesn't look great at all, and there is a good chance it will need to be replaced. All the screws on the bottom, top and back appear to be present and intact. Now let me try to turn this Nintendo Switch on and see if it works. Nope, no signs of life at all. Nothing happens. Normally, the next step would be to plug in the power cable and check if it's drawing any current, but since I don't know whether this console has water damage or not, I'm not going to do that yet. First, I want to open it and inspect the motherboard. I'll start by removing the 4 screws on the back. Next, I'll take out the 2 screws on the top and the 2 on the bottom. Using a plastic pry tool, I can gently open the housing and set it aside. And now I need to remove the metal shield by unscrewing these 4 screws. Once that's done, I can leave the shield of the console. The water damage indicator sticker is still intact, which is a great sign. Using a USB-C power meter, I'll check how much current the device is drawing. Unfortunately, after plugging it in, there's no current at all. I've tried flipping the cable, same result, nothing. To remove the motherboard for inspection, first I need to take out the heatsink. Before doing that, I'll disconnect the daughter board flex cable and the battery connector. After checking the battery with a multimeter, I can see it sitting at 2.4 volts, which means that the battery is discharged. Now I can remove the 3 screws holding the heatsink. Using a plastic card, I'll gently separate it and lift the heatsink out. Next, I'll remove the 7 screws that secure the game card reader. After unplugging its connector, I can move it out of the way. After that, I'll unscrew the 2 screws holding the R and R triggers and remove them together with the rubber pad. There are 6 more screws holding the motherboard in place, so the next step is to remove all of them. Once that's done, I can start unplugging all the flex cables, beginning with the LCD screen, then the fan connector, the touchscreen flex cable, the right joystick flex cable, and finally the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi antennas. Now I can remove the motherboard by gently sliding it upward and lifting it out. After unplugging the right speaker, I'll clean off the old thermal paste, since I'll be replacing it with a fresh one anyway. Before debugging the motherboard, I want to show you something. This is Plaud NotePin, a wearable AI voice recorder that fits in palm of your hand. This device is a perfect tool for brainstorming or recording any ideas on the go. With a tap of a finger, you start recording your voice instantly, and it stores all the data on the internal storage of 64 GB. The red indicator on the front panel will always help you to understand if the recording is on. The internal battery can hold up to 20 hours of continuous recordings or 40 days in standby mode, so you don't need to worry about losing the moment to record your ideas. The whole NotePin is made with aluminium and looks very sleek. The device has two microphones and can recognize different voices, so it also can be used for meetings or calls. But this device is not just a simple voice recorder. It has a powerful AI transcript feature, which brings your voice into text and even generates summaries using the Plaud app. The transcript feature supports up to 112 languages and can generate summaries with more than 10K templates, mind maps, and workflow generation. The device comes in 3 different colors: cosmic gray, lunar silver, and sunset purple, and with the help of a magnetic pin or a clip, you can place it almost anywhere. All the data on the device is encrypted, so you don't need to worry about privacy during recordings. I am planning to do the full review of the device for my future videos to see if it helped to improve my productivity and content creation. If you were looking into something like this, I highly recommend to try it. I will leave the link for the device in the description. Next, I'll start checking the power management section for shorts. I'll begin with the MUX 77620. No shorts found. Then I'll check the capacitors around MUX 77812. Again, no shorts. Finally, I'll test the M92 chip, and everything looks good there as well. At this point, the only likely cause of the console not powering on seems to be the USB-C port, so that will be my first repair. To make removing the USB-C port easier, I'll apply flux and add some fresh solder to both sides of the connector. After that, I'll apply more flux and start heating the port with a hot air station, set to 390 degrees at 55% of airflow. Once the solder is properly heated, I can gently leave the USB-C port and remove it completely. With the port removed, I'll apply flux and use solder wick to clean the pads and remove the excess solder. Then I'll clean the area with isopropyl alcohol until everything looks nice and clean. Next, I'll apply flux again until all the USB-C port pads with a fresh solder. Once that's done, I'll clean off the flux residue and prepare the USB-C port by tinning its pads as well. After applying a bit more flux, I can place the new port into position and solder it to the motherboard using hot air station. To strengthen the connection, I'll add extra solder to the back of the USB-C port to ensure all 4 ground pads are solidly connected. The result looks solid. All USB-C pins are properly soldered, and probing them under the microscope with tweezers shows good connections. Now I can place the motherboard into a shell and temporarily secure it with 4 screws. After that, I can plug in all the connectors together with the R and R buttons and reconnect the battery. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Yes, the USB-C power management tool shows 0.1 amps and we have a charging logo. Nice. After a few minutes, the current climbs to 0.5 amps. And then the Nintendo logo. It's alive. But when everything seems perfect, there's one small problem: parental controls enabled, and of course, no password from the seller. But I didn't give up at this point. After a bit of searching online, I found out that you can actually remove the parental controls by resetting the pin through the Nintendo Help Center. First, I need to get the device inquiry number by entering the wrong password several times and then pressing the plus button. Once that's done, I can see both the inquiry number and the device serial number. From here, I should not close the screen, because the inquiry number changes every time. Next, I go to parentalcontrols.nintendo.com. I select the language and device, then enter the numbers shown on my console. After that, I have to fill some basic personal details: first and last name, address, city, state, zip code, and email. Once the contact info was confirmed, there is 50 cents charge for age verification. After entering the credit card details, I click complete. And boom! The pin reset master key appears. Nice! By entering the master key, I create a new simple pin that is easy to remember. Then I go into the parental control settings, enter the new pin, and click the Delete Settings User X button. Confirming this removes all parental control restrictions, making the console fully unlocked and free to use. The old shell doesn't look great, so I'm putting a new one. It's time to take the console apart again. Once the motherboard is removed, I move on to the daughter board. I start with the L and L triggers, removing the two screws that hold them in place. After unplugging the daughter board flex cable, I remove the 5 screws securing the board. Then I disconnect the joystick connector and the LCD backlight connector, and the daughter board comes out. I won't be reusing the old buttons, but I do need the original rubber pads, so I remove and keep them. Next, I unscrew the 2 screws holding the joystick and pull it out. I also remove the joystick dustproof cover, since I'll need that as well. I then repeat the same process on the right side of the console. Once that's done, I remove another 5 screws holding the fan and the battery panel. With that panel off, I finally have full access to the LCD screen. Since the LCD and digitizer are glued together, the first step is to remove the touchscreen from the front shell. I apply heat at around 200 degrees, then gently leave the top center of the front panel and slide a plastic card underneath. Slowly moving the card along the edge, I separate the adhesive from the front plastic shell. I repeat the same process on the remaining 3 sides. Once that's done, I can remove the LCD from the front shell. The next step is separating the LCD from the touchscreen. They are held together with another layer of adhesive, so I apply heat again at about 200 degrees. I insert the same plastic card between the LCD and the touchscreen and carefully slide it down. The adhesive is very strong, so this takes a few passes. Once the LCD starts to lift, I apply more heat to the remaining sides. Finally, the LCD can be removed. Using a resin cleaner stick, I gently remove the remaining glue from the LCD. The screen looks perfect and is ready to be installed into the new shell. For the replacement, I am using a new shell from AliExpress. It comes with the shell itself, new buttons and a touchscreen. I start by applying primer to all 4 edges of the front shell where the new touchscreen will sit. Once the primer dries, I apply the new adhesive strips to all 4 sides of the front panel. The adhesive is a bit wider than needed, so I trim it using the old touchscreen as a guide. Then I apply the same primer to the new touchscreen. To avoid fingerprints on the touchscreen or LCD, I wear gloves. I peel off the adhesive backing and carefully place the new touchscreen into the front shell. For better adhesion, I add some extra Kapton tape around the edges. After removing the protective film from the back of the touchscreen, I apply the adhesive for the LCD. Before installing the LCD, I use a dust light to remove any particles. Next, I carefully align and place the LCD on the touchscreen. With the screen assembly done, I reinstall the battery and fan panel and secure it with screws. Next, I apply the dust-proof stickers for the joysticks and install them, tightening the 2 screws for each one. Then I install the new buttons on the left side of the console, along with the cleaned rubber pads. After that, I reinstall the daughter board and secure it with 5 screws. I reconnect all the flex cables, then reinstall L and the L buttons and tighten them with 2 screws. I repeat the same process on the right side, install the buttons and the rubber pads. Then I place the motherboard back in and reconnect the right speaker. Next, I reconnect all the flex cables. After that, I can secure the motherboard with 7 screws. Once that's done, I reinstall the cartridge slot. Then I reinstall R and the R buttons and tighten them with 2 screws. Before reinstalling the cooling system, I clean the old thermal paste from the heatsink and apply fresh one. Then I reinstall the heatsink and secure it with 3 screws. Now I can connect the battery and the daughter board flex cable. Next, I cleaned metal plate from the old thermal paste and apply a new one. Then I reinstall it using the 4 screws that hold it in place. Before replacing the backshell cover, I need to remove a few elements from the old one. I will start from the power and volume buttons rubber pad. Then I remove 2 plastic elements that hold cartridge and SD card covers. Next, I remove dust-proof meshes from the old shell by applying a bit of heat. Finally, I peel off the serial number sticker. Now I can place all these parts to the new back shell. Once all parts are transferred, I place the new back shell onto assembled console and secure it with 6 screws. One more touch and this Nintendo Switch is ready to go. And here it is, a fully restored Nintendo Switch Lite in a pink color. It looks amazing, the touchscreen is completely new, and the back cover looks pristine and feels like the original. After testing the touchscreen and all the buttons, I can confirm that everything works perfectly. The journey was a bit long, mainly because of the touchscreen replacement, but it was definitely a fun one. Now let's talk about the financial side of this project. The console itself cost $52.14. The replacement kit was $20.24 and the USB-C port cost 76 cents. That brings the total cost to $73.14. I can sell this console for around $130, which gives a profit of $56.86. not a huge margin, but the real value here was the experience, and making this video was a lot of fun. If you like this video, smash that like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe button. If you got something to say, leave a comment below, and I see you in the next one.